Gotcha.
It would be nice.
That didn't like cause a little bit.
Good evening. Welcome. As always, video of this meeting is streamed on YouTube and will also be available on Facebook and the village website. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask Clerk Saladino to call the roll.
Trustee Augustine.
Here.
Trustee Gale, absent. Trustee McGee. Trustee O'Brien.
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
Trustee Thompson, absent. And President Kukor.
Here, and Trustee Thompson and Trustee Gale indicated that they would not be able to make tonight's meeting. Clerk Saladino, please invite the audience to stand and please lead us in the pledge.
Please stand.
Thank you. Starting with the President's report, I'm happy to say and say again that about 2 weeks ago, the Appellate Court, First District, ruled in favor of the village and upheld Judge Neil Cohen's order declaring that the village has a right to continue to use the 54-inch storm sewer pipe that Hanson Aggregate previously severed. That's the quarry. The appellate court ruling is a significant legal victory for the long-awaited 50th Street Relief Storm Sewer Project. The village continues to move forward with the final permitting, financing, and constructing planning for this multi-phase $37 million project. We're thankful for the appellate court and for affirming Judge Cohen's order. We extend our thanks to Dan Stanner and John Fitzgerald, Tabit DeVito and Rothstein. They were our attorneys. They represented both the village at both the trial court and the appellate court, and obviously were very fine litigators and appellate counsel. As a lot of people read over the July 4th weekend, the reservoirs for the MWRD filled up or almost filled up. Record amounts were being held in the reservoir. And this is important because all the water that is going to go into this 54-inch sewer is water that would have gone into the deep tunnel and into those reservoirs, and now will be directed into the quarry, then into the McCook ditch, and then into the sanitary canal. It'll never be treated. It's not going to be wastewater. It's going to be storm water, and it's water that, again, will not impact the deep tunnel. And so all that water that we fear going in our basements when the deep tunnel gets full, this is going to solve that. So it's a really a huge win for Grange, but it's a great win also for the whole region because that water will be removed from the deep tunnel, or diverted from the deep tunnel, I should say. Recently, I had the opportunity to participate in the West Suburban Chamber of Commerce State of the Region. As part of the panel discussion, I shared updates on the village's key initiatives, investments, and strategic priorities, and I enjoyed hearing similar updates from our surrounding communities. Including McCook, who told us a little bit about the Bears. And I said that we have restaurants that would be able to serve the crowd if, in fact, it happens. I wanted to thank Megan Rowe and the West Suburban Chamber of Commerce for organizing the annual event, and for University of Chicago Advent Hospital for hosting, and our Deputy Village Manager, Charity Jones, for helping me with my remarks. Last weekend, the LaGrange Business Association hosted the annual LaGrange Craft Fair in downtown LaGrange. It was a great turnout, a great event, great weather. The event is always well attended, draws visitors from throughout the Chicago and the suburbs, and congratulations to the LGBA on another very successful event. And again, it's really one of the best craft fairs in the Midwest. The Environmental Quality Commission is pleased to announce again the Host Native Plant Tour. This year's tour will be Sunday, July 26th from 1 to 4. Residents are encouraged to walk, bike, or drive to a few houses featured or visit them all. More information can be found on the village's website under the page dedicated to the native plant tour. Next up is appointment and reappointment of individuals on advisory boards and commissions. Under A of the President's report is various ones, including Community and Economic Development, Design Review, Environmental Quality Commission, the Fire Pension Board, the Plan Commission, and the Police Pension Board. And so I'm going to go over each committee or commission and who's getting reappointed or appointed, a little bit about each one, and then we'll have a vote. Environmental Quality Commission, also EQC, inventory sources of environmental pollution which may have harmful effect on the public health, safety, welfare of the residents of the village. They also obviously do a lot of championing for sustainable practices and are leading, as we said, the native plant tour. For that, we are reappointing Stan Zarnowecki. Next is the Community and Economic Development Commission. It provides advice and assistance on matters related to economic development and relationships among residential neighborhoods and the commercial areas within the village. I'm appointing Steve Palmer as the chairperson and Ray Baker as a new member of the commission. Next is the Design Review Commission. It reviews matters related to the Central Business District facade renovation and restoration program, reviews and offers recommendations on design review applications, reviews sign permit appeals, considers matters related to the display of public art. And I reappoint Kurt Volkman as chairperson and reappoint Ray Baker. Ray would like to move off the DRC and just focus, but we're looking for somebody else with architectural or building background to take his spot. So he's serving until we can find a replacement. Next up is the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission reviews and formulates recommendations regarding applications for special use permits, plan development approval, site plan approval, and amendments to the zoning code. I'd like to appoint Chris Serra. Chris was formerly with the FBI and is now head of security for ConAgra Brands. And I want to make sure I have my pages in order here. Next, I want to appoint John Walls. John is an executive with Invenergy and was previously with Archer Daniels Midland. And I want to reappoint Glenn Whitnick. Next is the Police Pension Board. That I would like to reappoint John Peterson. And with that, we got Fire Pension. I would like to reappoint William O'Brien. Did we catch them all? Okay, with that, I would entertain a vote, a motion to confirm their appointments, and a second, and then we'll do a vote.
I'll motion to confirm.
Second. Oh.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee O'Brien. Any question? Peg Peterson.
Yes, thank you, President Kukler. And I am going to recluse myself from the approval of the reappointment of John Peterson to the Police Pension Board. John's my husband. So good luck to him.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. And I will be voting on his to make sure that we have enough votes to have him appointed. With that, I would ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
And President Kukler as it relates to John Peterson.
Aye. Thank you for that. Next up, we have one housekeeping update, and that's before I get to item A on the manager's report. Beginning August 1, the cost for general refuse collection service by Flood Brothers will increase by 3%. The cost of universal stickers, which covers both general refuse and yard waste, will be increasing 10 cents to $4.50 each. Stickers marked as expiring on July 31, 2026 will be honored for 90 days. Deputy Village Manager Jones is acting village manager for this week, and we appreciate you stepping in for while Village Manager Knight is on vacation, well-deserved vacation. And so with that, I think I would kick it to you for the manager's report. I will just remind everyone that, as always, the board doesn't meet the last meeting in July and the first meeting in August, so we will be reconvening on August 24th.
Great. Thank you, President Kukler, and good evening, everyone. Item A under the Village Manager's report this evening is the presentation of the South LaGrange Road Corridor Plan, which was made possible through a local technical assistance grant from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, or CMAP. The plan furthers the recommendations of the recently adopted comprehensive plan for the area along South LaGrange Road from 47th Street south to the village boundary. Its development over the past several months was guided by a steering committee comprised of representatives from the Plan Commission, Design Review Commission, and Community and Economic Development Commission, and was informed by broad community input. With us this evening is Todd Vandeluk on behalf of CMAP with a brief presentation of the plan highlights. Staff recommends acceptance of the plan consistent with the recommendation of the steering committee. I'll turn it over to Todd at this time for his presentation.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Village President and Board of Trustees, for having me today. On behalf of CMAP, we really want to thank you and your community for playing a significant role in preparing this corridor plan for the South LaGrange Road. As Charity had mentioned, my name is Todd Van Adelack. I'm a community planning consultant working with CMAP on a variety of project and staff management projects, including this corridor plan for LaGrange. I do want to thank Charity Jones and also Village Planner Kevin Quinn and also the steering committee who played a very large role in guiding this process. And I also wanted to thank the LaGrange community for coming out to the different community engagement opportunities that we had to really speak their voice and to have a say in what went on in the process. As Charity noted, the project you can see here on the map is a study area. It just goes 47th Street on the north side and Plainfield Road on the south side, and about half block to the east and west. So the corridor plan actually builds upon your 2024 LaGrange Forward Comprehensive Plan, which identified South LaGrange Road corridor as a sub-area for further study. So this is a really big jumping off point from that 2024 plan. In terms of project goals, there were 4 main goals, and you can see them here. I'm not going to go through each of them, and you'll actually see how, when we go through this recommendations and strategies, how we hit upon each of these goals throughout the process. I did mention community engagement. There were actually multiple points of engagement throughout the process. There it goes, a little slow. But there were different points of engagement. We had a pop-up table at the farmers market. There was actually a community survey that was done about a year ago in the spring. We had close to 600 responses, which is really good to see, really good output for that. We had stakeholder interviews where we interviewed a variety of stakeholder groups, including local businesses and property owners, commercial broker, the Historical Society, your school and park districts, and IDOT as well. We actually had a community open house back in November, and I'll touch upon that in the next slide. And then the steering committee again. We met with the steering committee at 5 different points. The most recent one was a couple of weeks ago, back in June. And at all of these points, the public had a really good opportunity to have their voice known throughout the process during the survey, during the community open house back in November. We even had them, we had a lot of community members come to each of the 5 steering committees meetings as well, and they had a chance to raise public comment at those as well. So I did mention just real quick that the community open house that was conducted here in the neighborhood back in November, it had a little over 50 participants, and it was mainly to get public input on the early parts of the process, so that a lot of the input that we received at the open house back in November really played a role in the strategies and recommendations that you'll see in the next slides coming up. And based on the feedback throughout those community points of engagement, we started to see a lot of common themes. based around development, infrastructure, particularly stormwater management, and then traffic and pedestrian safety. That was by far one of the paramount issues that really need to look at for the corridor. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these common themes. You'll actually see these common themes threaded throughout the strategies and recommendations. So just wanted to throw these up there, but they're also in your packets as well, and we can certainly come back if anything jumps out at you throughout this process. So in terms of the corridor plan, it centers around four. So the corridor plan, before I get into the issues, this is the structure of it. There's an introduction. We go through the goals and the process and the timeline. We summarize the community engagement that I just went through just a second ago. We also had existing conditions report and a market analysis that were done last year that really fed into giving us the background data to really understand the corridor and the community, and it really helped ground the recommendations and strategies, which we'll go through here as well. In terms of the four sections, the corridor plan is actually centers around four core issues. One is accessibility and safety, two is corridor vitality, three is infrastructure or stormwater management, and four is corridor character. And you'll see on the left-hand side, if you see a yellow star next to a strategy, that notes a near-term project that can be completed within the first 5 years of plan implementation. And this is really important because it really facilitates quick wins. It builds support from the community and also generates momentum for those medium and long-term strategies that take a little bit more time, but if you can get those short-term wins, it really helps in the short term. So again, the first of the four issue areas is accessibility and safety. Each of the issue areas has a goal attached to it, and the one for accessibility and safety is mainly to increase pedestrian safety, improve neighborhood connectivity, and boost pedestrian access to businesses and local destinations, and enhance residents' quality of life. So there were three main recommendations here. Number one is to modify safety infrastructure in intersections. And the strategies here, you'll actually see below the green line is mainly focusing on coordination with IDOT is for potential interventions to improve pedestrian infrastructure and safety. One is the signalized intersection at 51st Street, and the other one is demonstration projects for curb extensions at 48th and 49th Street. IDOT really supports municipalities with these demonstration projects as a means to use temporary materials like construction barrels and other physical items to test the effectiveness of interventions before determining if permanent construction of any of these interventions are feasible. The second recommendation is to coordinate with IDOT to reduce speeding on the corridor, along the corridor. And then pretty similar to the first recommendation is a lot of it is, again, coordination with IDOT. It's lowering the speed limit, implementing traffic calming interventions, and constructing raised medians where feasible. So that strategy 2.1 about talking about lowering the speed limit from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour actually has precedence in the area, as LaGrange Park to the north successfully lobbied IDOT to lower the speed limit on their stretch, LaGrange Road. It is also important to emphasize here that we met with IDOT to evaluate a range of methods to improve accessibility and safety along the corridor. The strategies noted thus far were the most practical based on IDOT's input, but also the feasibility within the village of LaGrange. And the third recommendation is popping up soon. So these strategies is basically include forming a safe routes to school program. It should flip. Building on current village outreach and education campaigns on safe driving, and coordinating with the school districts to organize bike and roll to school days and family bike bus routes. Are you all able to see it on your immediate screens? Okay. Okay. I apologize. I think it's the Wi-Fi. So the second category is corridor vitality. The recommendation here is to prepare vacant and underutilized properties for new uses or adaptive reuse by making them more attractive through modernization of interior spaces, enhancement of exterior facades, and improvement of utility infrastructure. In terms of strategies here, it's connecting commercial property owners with resources to rehab or modernize their properties. 2 is identifying vacant or underutilized properties to identify suitable spaces for new tenants, adaptive reuse projects, or temporary uses. And 3 is marketing vacant or underutilized properties to real estate brokers, developers, businesses, and local groups. The second recommendation really looks at coordinating with property owners. The strategies here, one is coordinating a developer panel with the Urban Land Institute of Chicago to provide more targeted guidance on the feasibility of mixed-use development. This was actually a near-term strategy because right now Village Staff is actually working with ULI Chicago to engage with a developer panel to bring to the village to talk about some of those mixed-use development opportunities here along the corridor. Other strategies include coordinating with property owners to evaluate opportunities to assemble multiple land parcels to form larger sites for potential development or redevelopment. 3 is exploring potential grants and other funding mechanisms. 4 is fostering a local network. Okay, thank you. No worries. Thank you. And reevaluating parking requirements in light of state mandates. And then the third recommendation under Corridor Vitality is to support reinvestment in existing residential properties and expand resources to maintain long-term housing stability and vitality along the corridor. And strategies here includes consulting with the Illinois Housing Development Authority on their housing programs to expand the supply of underrepresented housing types, and also connecting residents with maintenance and rehab resources, particularly regarding energy efficiency, tax liability reduction, and historic properties protection. So the third category is infrastructure, and the goal here is just to improve stormwater management through best practices and larger capital improvement efforts near the corridor. So the first recommendation here is to incorporate stormwater management and green infrastructure in the corridor to mitigate flooding. In terms of the strategies here, one is to adding things like bioswales on their roadway to help with stormwater management. And 2 is exploring the creation of a potential green alley program. So green infrastructure improvements such as drainage systems, property site grading, permeable pavers, and so on are meant to improve stormwater management capacity in public alleys. Some local examples for that, City of Chicago is one of the first communities in the region to do that, but one of the ones that is actually doing it right now through a program with MWRD is North Riverside. So if you want to look at an example that's actually going through it right now, North Riverside is a good sister community to look at. And the second recommendation under infrastructure is to educate residents on stormwater management and flood mitigation strategies and resources. And the fourth and final issue area for the corridor plan is corridor character, and that's to establish the corridor as an inviting southern gateway to Grange with a distinct character defined by eclectic mix of uses serving established neighborhoods. So the recommendation here, the first one is to implement the corridor design guidelines, which I'll actually cover in one of the next slides, to maintain the character of South LaGrange Road as a corridor with small neighborhood businesses and services and a diverse housing stock. So the strategies here is, one is to codify some or all of these design guidelines in your zoning code. We understand that one of the things on your docket today is actually to approve a consultant to update your zoning code. So this is a really good opportunity to look at those design guidelines and potentially codify some or all of those into your zoning code update. And you'll see that's why it has a yellow star as a near-term strategy, and the other is to create information materials to ensure the design guidelines are properly implemented by property owners and developers and builders. And the second recommendation under corridor character is to beautify the corridor with streetscape enhancements as defined in the design guidelines. And here is to coordinate streetscape enhancements with IDOT and other property owners, also expanding the wayfinding signage along the corridor as well. And the third and final recommendation under corridor character is to work with local artists and property owners to incorporate public art into the streetscape, including temporary installations, murals, and community art projects. I did allude to that there are design guidelines as part of this corridor plan. The design guidelines are intended to ensure new developments and site improvements are compatible with community ideals and local contexts. Design guidelines are organized into 8 categories, as you can see here on the screen, from building form and architecture, site design and streetscape, to lighting, signage, and landscaping, and things like green infrastructure, which I talked about earlier, and sustainability, and also infrastructure for bikes and pedestrians. Since these are only guidelines and not requirements, one of the strategies, as I noted earlier, is to potentially codify these so that they have more legal backing in your zoning code. So that's, again, a great way to do that is through your zoning code update process that's going to begin soon. And then the main part, or one of the main parts of the corridor plan is an implementation plan. You'll see an excerpt here on your screen. So all the strategies are organized into an implementation action plan that you see here that attaches potential funding sources and other resources to each of the strategies that we talked about just in the past couple of minutes, so that the village has the tools needed to activate this plan and achieve the goals and recommendations of the plan. And to round out the presentation, implementation of the corridor plan will need to be coordinated with other planning efforts that the village is currently undertaking. One is ongoing implementation of your 2024 LaGrange Forward Comprehensive Plan, as alluded to earlier, updating the LaGrange zoning code, and also ensuring ongoing, some of the strategies about infrastructure will need to be coordinated with village-wide infrastructure capital improvement projects as well. And that's all I had. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you had any.
Sorry, does anybody on the board have any questions for Todd Vanderlock? Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, President Kugler. Yeah, that's on. Todd, thank you. It was a pleasure reading through all of this. A lot of it I was familiar with conceptually from the comp plan. But then through this effort, a much deeper dive, so it's nice to see things fleshed out. I understand that there's many potential next steps depending on where we want to go with this, including the codifying of some of the recommendations, which I'm sure we'll do. But then what? You know, is there a recommendation of, there's a lot of things we can do here. Is there a suggestion of what order, or is that all something that we all decide? Are you out? You know, how is, it's a big document with a lot of options. Is there going to be a kind of an additional, this makes sense to start here as you know, as the professional that you are, to recommend we go a certain way?
Sure, really good question. So as I mentioned earlier, and hopefully it'll pop up on the screen, that implementation plan. So each of the strategies that we went through are assigned phasing. So near term is usually within the first 5 years of implementation. Medium term is 5 to 7 or 8 years, and then anything long term is 8+ years. Those things that just take a while to get traction. So we really want to emphasize that all the items that have that yellow star are near term items that you can really hit the ground running tomorrow. And you have a really capable staff with Charity and Kevin who can really hit the ground running with the strategies and this implementation action plan that we outlined for them, with particularly starting with those near-term items that we do have resources so that if they need an example to get started, we have those linked in the plan, but we also have potential funding sources as well, so you know that it's not going to be all on the village to fund these processes. There's state and local and regional grants as well. One of the near-term items that I did allude to earlier was that the Urban Land Institute and the village is already coordinating with CMAP in terms of preparing a developer panel to understand what is really feasible from a developer and builder standpoint for this corridor. We did the best that we could to get you to that point, but none of us are in that developer mindset to understand what really could work. We did have a market study, but we thought that next level is that market and that developer panel with ULI. And that's one of the first things that actually started getting going even before today, which is really good to see. Again, it's those quick wins where you really want to gain momentum and have those feathers in your cap early on in the first 1, 2, 3 years. And then as you build momentum, you can get to those medium-term and long-term ones along the road. But again, we would mostly encourage you to focus on those near-term items, the ones with the yellow stars. And again, you have a very capable staff, you have very capable board and commissions that can really shepherd that through.
Agreed. Would you say most of these recommendations and the strategy in the order that you've put forth, in addition to the near, short-term, medium-term, long-term, were those guided and supported mostly by the resident input that we received, or was it you guys took this and kind of assembled a working order? In other words, where did the residents seem to be most concerned? What did they want to see more immediate needs? For example, there's no crosswalk, right, for almost a mile, and it's the only stretch of the Grange where that exists. Did they seem to think that was something that we wanted to do more urgently? Was there enough feedback on that for you to decide and finish the sidewalks on that stretch down to Plainfield?
For sure. The two main things, and they were actually the two of the four main topics. One was infrastructure or stormwater management, and then pedestrian safety. Those are probably the two biggest issue areas that we heard from residents and community members throughout the process. And they did really help us understand what they felt could work from different perspectives. And that really helped us understand what did they think could work along the corridor and in their neighborhoods. And then we brought that to not only to staff, but we talked with the local IDOT rep to say, hey, are these feasible? The residents, the community really felt like this could work. Some of the ideas that IDOT said could work, we even heard from community members who said, we're not sure if that would work, but it's a balance, because you want to hear from your community members because they live, work here, their kids go to school here, and so on. So you really want to make sure that all the stuff that comes to improve their quality of life gets heard and considered for the plan, and then you balance that with what village staff and village departments, they understand the community in terms of what projects are going on, particularly infrastructure projects. You do have your capital infrastructure process where you're looking at the village-wide approach to improving infrastructure and stormwater management. So you want to balance that from a village-wide level, but also make sure you balance that at the local level. So that was one of the balancing acts that we really had to really work with. But again, I think we really did hear a lot from the community members, and I think it was really valuable to get that input. And hopefully they saw what they raised to us in the plan, and hopefully as these strategies get implemented, they'll start to see things get better.
Great. Well, I appreciate you putting it in this structure for us. And as I understand it, and Charity, you may need to correct me because I won't do it justice, but this is, we examined kind of the desires of the community through the comprehensive plan, and we put that into play, and we had a lot of community discussions about it. And then another layer of community discussion with you all. And then that really was an important next step because we kind of need that permission and understanding through IDOT that we've done our work and we've engaged the community, and this is where we think we should go. It sounds to me like this was, we're glad that we qualified for the grant and we're able to do it, but it's a necessary step before we go any further. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Right. It's certainly very important with IDOT, if we come to them with future plans and requests for modifying the improvements in their right-of-way, that we can demonstrate a community need and consensus through a document like this plan.
And that's correct. I think that community need, that demonstrating that community need and having a document like this to support that is one reason why LaGrange Park was able to reduce the speed limit along their stretch of the corridor. They were able to provide documentation and community input, and also village officials input to let IDOT know, hey, this is a really important to us. Can you take a look at it? And they were able to lobby them to reduce the speed limit. So having a plan in place is better than not having one. So it's good funding to have. Yes.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. And when you're talking about lowering the speed limit, does any consideration come into play for the fact that there are some schools that are to the west of LaGrange Road, but in that vicinity. One of them would be Gurry Middle School and also St. Cletus Grade School. Because does that come into play when there's consideration to lower the speed limit on LaGrange Road in that area?
It certainly can be very beneficial to have that support, whether it's through letters from school officials, like if you were to deliver a package of information to IDOT to lobby them, having those support from schools, from parents, from teachers and so on, to really emphasize the need for more pedestrian safety for not just the neighborhoods, but just for parents and school children as well. So yeah, it all can help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One last question.
Yes.
Todd, thank you. In your years of doing this, are you familiar with any community along a state road like LaGrange Road where they have this span without a safe crossing for their residents? This long of a span?
I'm sure they exist in the region. I just can't think of.
I've gone way north up LaGrange Road. There's about every 4 blocks or less and south. So in areas where there's retail and residents. So I just wondered if you had if you were called to mind anything like that.
Not that. Yeah, you caught me flat-footed on that question, but I mean, just the fact that LaGrange Park asked for it, that really just shows that they felt like their stretch of the corridor really needed some reduction of the speed limit, and they were successful at it. I'm sure if you go further south along the corridor, or even some of your east-west corridors, not only in your village, but beyond in other communities, you'll probably find certain intersections, whether they're in residential neighborhoods or in commercial corridors, where certain things should be done to improve safety. And again, it's similar to what we did for this process. There isn't really one silver bullet to really solve that. There's a number of different interventions that you can do with IDOT coordination to improve pedestrian safety. And some of that is with IDOT, but some of that is just taking back the street as community members. Like one of the things that we talked about is Safe Routes to School program, which a lot of communities have. And also just doing things with the school, like doing bike programs where just families bike together in mass so that they more or less take the streets back. And it's not going to happen overnight, but if you do it over a long stretch of time, patterns change, behaviors change, and it starts to see things like that change.
Yeah, I guess I'm most concerned with the lack of safe crossing whatsoever. There's nothing signaled or there's no, crosswalk. So a parade of adults and children crossing 5 lanes, I don't know that can happen.
Yeah.
During the school day, safely ever. So that's my concern, is that I think this is one of the longest stretches I've seen without a safe way to get across. And as Trustee Peterson mentioned, we've got schools on the west, schools on the east, parks on both sides. So I think one of the reasons why this stretch is the way it is, it isn't thriving maybe in the way it could be in some matter, is that people avoid going this way or that, right? Or they send their kids north and which is not necessarily the safest intersection either at 47th and LaGrange. That's a pretty tight one too. But I just think it really cuts off the community. So whatever we do, I think this is part of it. And I was glad to see that there was a lot of community support for that. So hopefully IDOT is open to it.
Yeah, it's. I think coordinating with IDOT can be a challenge at times because they certainly space their signals at certain intervals, and they have their certain criteria of where they put certain interventions. But the fact that we were able to talk to IDOT, present them with potential interventions that could work here, they told us things that could work, and that's what you saw in the plan. There were some things that we presented that they said, we don't think that will work. And we took that to heart because we didn't want to put anything in the plan that wasn't feasible. So we did that as well. So yeah, I agree. I think from 47th to Plainfield Road, that's like 5 or 6 blocks, right? And yeah, so it's a lot without in between signals. So I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Seeing no other questions, I again want to thank you, Todd, for coming out tonight. I want to thank you for all the work and your team put in for this project and plan. I want to thank CMAP again for underwriting it, and we will formally accept the plan. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Deputy Village Manager Jones, any other managers report? I know I stole
No
your thing
other
about
items.
the Flood Brothers.
That's
so-
all right. No other items on the manager's report tonight.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Clerk Saladino to read the items on the consent agenda, followed by those items appearing under current business.
Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they already have been considered fully by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of a routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to current business for separate consideration. Item A, a resolution approving a contract with EHMS Hayward Mechanical for Village Hall boiler replacement. Item B, a resolution approving a contract with Petra Builder, Inc. for the fire department deck and canopy roof replacement. Item C, a resolution approving closed session minutes, determining the need to keep minutes of certain closed meetings of the village board confidential, and authorizing the destruction of verbatim recordings of certain closed meetings of the village board. Item D, an ordinance authorizing the disposal of village property. Item E, a resolution approving a master services agreement with Comcast Cable Communications Management, LLC, and sales order for 500 megabyte EDI internet service and IPv4 static address block 28. Item F, minutes of the Village of LaGrange Board of Trustees regular meeting, May 11, 2026. Item G, consolidated voucher, July 13th, 2026. Current business. This agenda item includes consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, a resolution approving an agreement with Housel Levine Associates, LLC for a comprehensive zoning code update. Item B, a resolution approving a special event permit for the LaGrange Business Association 2026 Oktoberfest. That's it.
Thank you, Clerk Saladino. Next on tonight's agenda is public comments regarding agenda items. I'd ask you to come, introduce yourself at the microphone.
My name is John Pluto. I am a resident of LaGrange. I am here to speak tonight about a resolution approving a contract with EHMS Hayward Mechanical for Village Hall boiler. The village HVAC system was revamped between 2011 and 2013 at the cost of approximately $791,000. These facts came from the Executive Committee report dated January 28, 2013. The present system is 13 years old. Life expectancy of boilers of this type can go from 15 to 30 years depending on the boiler. Do we have maintenance records on our present boiler? Do we have a maintenance contract on our present boiler? If so, can I see the maintenance records on our present boiler? The problem I have with this contract is one, we can't see the two other bids. So we cannot determine which company would be the best option. Two, have we examined and assessed the current boiler issues, what the current boiler issues are? Have we consulted a third party for a boiler assessment? So if it's a maintenance issue, we can remedy that problem. Third, EHMS Hayward Mechanical provided the lowest proposal at $96,900. It did not include additional fees quoted by other two vendors. Hayward's exclusions are as follows: power wiring, control wiring, BAS integration upgrading, fire alarm integration, permits, disconnect switches, starters, smoke detectors, asbestos removal, lead abatement, and mold. Remediation, structural analysis modifications, and itemized invoicing. I don't think a decision can be made on this without comparing apples to apples. This is the second time we have gone into a resolution waiving competitive bidding with this company since June 12th, 2023. The air conditioning unit serving the Village Hall is inoperative. The unit is a part of the overall system serving the building. Air conditioning in the remaining area of the building is unaffected. Why do we have 2 window units in the Village Hall? In June 12th, 2023, we approved $28,600 to fix this air conditioning system in this great room. And this is an example of what we got. We got 2 window shakers that are barely keeping us cool. I think this is, I think the practice that you're doing with waiving the competitive bid is an unfair practice to the other bidders, and it should be stopped. Okay, the major problem is the other bids are more money, but these guys ain't giving us everything that we think we're getting. So there's number 5 on their proposal is furnish and install all necessary venting, including insulation, venting to be direct venting to the existing chimney. Well, that could be a bit of an expense because we might have to put a stainless steel liner in it since it's a 95% effective boiler. So I think that you have to go back to this company and have them give you the complete bid so we can compare the other 2 bids and see who is reasonable. This isn't acceptable in my book that we just give it to whoever we like. Let's be competitive about it and make sure we're getting our bang for our buck.
Thank you, Mr. Pluto.
Pardon me?
Thank you. You know, you're well over 4.5 minutes.
Does anybody care?
Other than me?
Yeah.
Can you conclude, please?
Well, this is what was done in 2023, and this was this company's fix, and it's not fixed, and we spent $28,000. Let's make sure we look at the other 2 bids and compare everything, because I don't think Mr. Knight or Mr. O'Brien are experts in this field, and I don't think they should be making the choice that we're going to have to live with. They don't have any skin in the game. They don't live in this town. They don't die in this town.
Well, I think you're incorrect, but that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Pluto.
Jonathan Robinson, I'm a resident. Tonight's agenda item 5C, which is about closed meeting minutes and verbatim recordings. It's practically unbelievable that no closed meeting over the past year, which would be this last 6 months with this resolution and the previous 6 months with the last resolution in February, has lost its requirement for confidentiality. Somebody's supposed to evaluate that with each of these resolutions, not just copy and paste it from last time. When discussing agenda item 6A on February 23rd of 2026, where the board voted to move forward with the purchase agreement to buy properties for parking on the west side of town near Burlington and Brainerd, it was disclosed that there was a closed meeting discussion in January to evaluate that purchase. That would mean the 126 closed meeting with an OMA Section 2C5 justification would have been that discussion. I publicly pointed out at that February 23rd meeting that when this transaction closed, the meeting minutes and verbatim recordings should be released to the public. The OMA only allows for confidentiality during the real estate transaction to maintain bids and strategy under confidence. Once the real estate transaction is closed, it requires the information to become public. That $915,000 purchase of parking properties near Burlington and Brainerd's has closed. The meeting minutes and verbatim recordings are required to be released to the public. This item needs to be removed from the consent agenda to be discussed. There is no excuse not to release those portions of those closed meetings. The public has the right to know how the village justified the decision, determined the price, and what logic was used to proceed with this purchase. I put my FOIA request in on Friday, hoping that you would do the correct thing today and release this information as required. There's no reason not to. It's a real estate transaction. The confidentiality is done now that the closing statement's been signed. I'd also like to note that on the closed meetings on October 27th of 25 and November 24th of 2025 have the same OMA Section 25C for discussions about real estate acquisitions was used again. Now that we're 8 months plus away from those meetings, both of those real estate discussions have most likely closed or been eliminated at this point. Those meetings and verbatim recordings should be given back to the public as well. Additionally, recently, the litigation for our use of the quarry for water drainage has come to an end. Litigation ending would also be another time when closed meeting minutes and verbatim recordings should be released back to the public. Have we reviewed the quarry litigation situation closed meeting appropriately for the information to be made public? To have nothing be returned for over a year of closed meetings doesn't seem right, doesn't seem practical, and it's definitely impossible with the parking purchases. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Seeing no one else, we'll proceed with the consent agenda. If we could get a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
A motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee Peterson. Before trustees ask any questions you may have, but first I'll let Trustee Augustine speak regarding.
Thank you, President Kukler. As previously stated, I recuse myself from voting on any agenda items related to the village prosecutor.
Thank you. To Director O'Brien, I assume we do need a boiler. Could you just give any information regarding the need for this project, for item A?
Yeah, sure. For one thing, the building has two different systems. We have an HVAC system and then a boiler system. The HVAC system, we have a separate project budgeted for next year to fix some of the stuff that's that needs to be repaired with that. The boiler is, it's correct. Like there was 2011, and the parts for that boiler replacement, we've had many issues over the years with that. We were having a hard time sourcing the parts. They've become obsolete and harder to find. That's one of the reasons why we have this on the agenda tonight. We did speak to all three people who put in proposals, including the one that we were proposing tonight, and we are pretty happy with what the responses were after they put the proposals as, making sure that everything that we want to happen in the building is going to be a appropriate response to the problem we're facing here.
Thank you, Director O'Brien. I appreciate that. Moving to item C, if our attorney, Benjamin Schuster, can explain what we're doing with C and why we're continuing to keep the matters confidential and for how much longer we intend to.
Yeah, so the village board conducted its semi-annual review of minutes and made the determination that need for confidentiality exists. The claim that was made that once the purchase of property is done, that they must be released is not accurate under the law. While we can't go into closed session to talk about deals that have occurred in the past, the issue of the minutes themselves is different because they contain attorney-client privileged information. Also, the minutes themselves may contain more than one item, and there may be a need to keep the minutes in that verbatim recording confidential. What I can assure you is that our practices are compliant with the Open Meetings Act, and also no different than virtually every single municipality in the state of Illinois, which is that the verbatim recordings as set forth in the Open Meetings Act do not have to be released to the public because, again, for all the reasons we just stated. And then the meetings, closed meeting minutes every 6 months we review, and we'll make a determination. And at some point, there may be reason that we can release them, but I think it's based on the various things that we've discussed before, which is the assessment's been made by the board based on what's in the minutes and the need. So again, we're fully compliant with the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Attorney Schuster. With that, I would open it to trustees. Any questions before we do a roll call vote? And with that, I would ask Clerk Saladino to do a roll and maybe explain why I'd be voting, or however you plan to handle that.
I got you. Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
And President Kukler, with regards to items 5A, 5D, and 5G.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Moving on to current business, 6A, the resolution approving agreement for the comprehensive zoning code, and I would refer that to Trustee Peterson. Your mic might not be on.
Thank you.
There you go.
The 2024 Grange Forward Comprehensive Plan identified more than 35 strategies that can be implemented through a comprehensive update of the village's zoning code. The specific improvements noted include code modernization, code simplification, improved user efficiency, and improved accessibility. To facilitate the comprehensive update of the zoning code, village staff issued a request for proposals, seeking proposals from qualified firms on March 4th, 2026. Of the proposals received, 3 were determined to be most responsive to the request and were selected for interviews. The village's evaluation team, consisting of Village Manager Knight, Deputy Village Manager, Community Development Director Jones, and Village Planner Quinn, conducted the interviews and evaluated the firm's ability to provide the services requested. Through this process, Housel Levine Associates LLC was unanimously identified as the most qualified to provide the requested services. Housel Levine's proposal includes a robust focus on engagement and data-driven land use policies, a commitment to advancing the goals of the Grange Forward Comprehensive Plan was evident in their project approach. The project team includes the co-founder of Housel Levine Associates LLC and other urban planning consultants with experience working on similar comprehensive zoning code updates. The project is projected to last 18 months with multiple opportunities for community engagement and public input. Staff has collaborated with a representative of Housel Levine Associates LLC and the village attorney in crafting the proposed agreement for comprehensive zoning update. Funds for the comprehensive zoning code rewrite are included in the approved fiscal year 2026-27 budget within the Community Development Department, $240,000. The proposed contract is not to exceed $191,370 for stated scope of work. I recommend the approval of the resolution approving a professional services agreement with Housel Levine Associates LLC for comprehensive zoning code update.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson and Trustee O'Brien. With that, I would ask if any trustees have any comments or questions. Seeing none, I would ask for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Next up is B, a resolution approving a special event for the LaGrange Business Association, which is the 2026 Oktoberfest. I'll give a little background. We have Dan Mulke from the LGBA, who's going to give us some more flavor, so to speak. The village's special event policy requires permits for various types of special events. The village board authorization is required for a special event permit application for the purpose to fully occupy village property or close a public right-of-way. The LaGrange Business Association has proposed an Oktoberfest street festival in September of 2026, the last weekend of September, as further described in the attached narrative, which I'll go into a little bit. The event will include German-inspired live music, games, food, and drinks. The event is to be held on Callender Avenue between LaGrange Road and Ashland. The proposed hours are starting Friday, September 25th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday starting at noon and going to 10 p.m., and Sunday again starting at noon and going to 9. Road closures associated with the event are proposed from early Friday morning through early Monday morning. The LGBA is also requesting the use of a portion of Lot 5 for the event staff parking and general staging. Alcohol service is proposed to be conducted by properly licensed businesses within the immediately adjacent to the event. If the event is approved by the village board, separate consideration by the Liquor Control Commissioner, which is me, will be required for the proposed social district operations and any special use liquor license applications by participating restaurants. Compliance with the appropriate food service and liquor licenses, as well as standard special event permitting requirements, will also be necessary and mandatory. The LGBA notes that private security will be hired, with 6 personnel anticipated during peak operating hours. Additionally, the police department intends to retain a presence at the event throughout the weekend. A waiver of the event application fee has been requested by the LGBA, as well as a waiver of expenses related to village staff time. Per the special event policy, the standard permit fee would be $200 plus hourly rates for dedicated staff resources, staff on overtime, etc. Although the events and staffing details are not fully finalized and subject to change, the estimated value of the waiver is $5,196. Staff recommends approval of the resolution authorizing a special event permit for the LaGrange Business Association. And with that, I would kick it to you, Dan, to add a little more.
Aha, I got to hit that button. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the time. And when I first started in November 2024, literally, first day, I'm flipping through my predecessor's notes, and I see notes about, hey, an Oktoberfest could be a great time. And then go figure, as I'm talking to various restaurants, my restaurant committee, there seemed to be this push for this Oktoberfest idea. So being new, obviously, we took a little bit of time. I'm getting adjusted. I went through a staff transition as well. But as we came to February and March of this year, our restaurant committee was ready to push forward with this, myself and my staff member at the same time. And this is really, truly going to be an event from our businesses, as well as, I'm going to mention in a few seconds, some other folks as well. The businesses are really pushing for this event, and our goal is to exclusively focus our LaGrange businesses, whether it's the ones that are currently on calendar or giving the chance for people to set up a tent. I'll give an example of GP Italiano, who also serves at our farmers market, things of that nature. We also wanted to make it a true community event, so we're going to be partnering up with nonprofits and giving them the chance to make a few bucks through games as well. Without mentioning names, but certain ideas we're talking about is going to be like a Pinewood Derby, and you can probably guess the nonprofit I'm talking about, themed to the Autobahn, different things of that nature. We have one of our restaurants that's going to do a root beer garden. So, as I am also a parent of a 6-year-old and 8-year-old, my goal is to make an event that my kids would have a great time as well. So, we went through and outlined, and thank you for everybody that worked with me on kind of forming this plan, and I'm ready to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it. I was a huge advocate of it. I've met with a lot of community members, a lot of business owners that really wanted it, so I couldn't not echo more your thoughts. I know that it's a lot of work for our staff, and I appreciate their dedication on this. But with that, I'd open it up. Any comments? Anyone? Seeing none, I would ask for a roll
Sorry,
call.
I do.
Nope.
I just didn't want to cut in if someone else had one.
Okay.
I just wanted to say also, thanks. This is very exciting. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about it. It's been a while since we've had a fresh event. And this one, I think, really fits in with the kind of things that people in the area like to do. It takes such great advantage of the business center. Pulling in businesses who aren't in that area to participate is a really great idea. I've seen the kind of some of the design and layout, and it's really going to be very exciting. So thanks for doing that. It's very thoughtful. I know it's a lot of work to put something together for the first time, and it sounds like everyone just worked really well together. So we're excited.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan, I've got a suggestion, maybe a dunk tank, and President Kugler
Sure,
or
sure.
somebody else could be on it.
I mean, that's officially on the record, so.
Exactly. That's why we don't allow Clerk Saladino to speak much. No, great ideas. With that, before we have any other crazy ideas, we'll have a roll call vote.
Make a motion.
Did we not have a motion? I'm sorry. I would entertain a motion in a second.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee O'Brien. With that, which I should have done earlier, with that, I would, again, I assume no more questions, and ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Peterson,
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien,
Aye.
Trustee McGee, Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thanks. We do appreciate the LGBA and your, Dan, efforts already. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is public comments regarding matters not on tonight's agenda, number 7. Does anyone in the audience wish to comment on those matters not on tonight's agenda?
John Pluto once again. We'll put this under unfinished business.
Okay.
Let's not dilly-dally with sending the petition to IDOT for speed reduction on South LaGrange Road corridor. It was recommended in 2010 by the traffic experts at the time, KLOA, and was never followed through. Let's finish this project before we start another one. I would like the status of the streetlights, 6 of them in all, on East Avenue for the 3 blocks in front of my house. They've been off for a month and a half, and the de-energizing of them should have never happened until they were able to be re-energized. When are my streetlights coming back on? Now, number 3, there needs to be more speed monitoring on East Avenue. Your traffic enforcement plan is not effective and requires more thought. Let's get a board report and create a flood task force to put together a feasible plan so Sedgwick Park residents don't get flooded out by the 50th Street storm sewer. Show us the plan and let's talk about it. Let's have a South Basin flood workshop and share the plan. Since we no longer are in litigation, it should be shared with the residents. That 54-inch pipe that's going into the quarry, I'm sorry to say that drains an 8 square block area in back of me. So when you bring that water down from 50th Street, we better have enough room for all of it. And last is my favorite. When is the update on the exterior maintenance of our Plainfield and East Avenue water reservoir? Can we expect cleaning and coating for tank longevity? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comments, I would open it up for trustee comments. Trustee Augustine?
Thank you, President Kugler. I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to outgoing CEDC Chairman Russ Roberto, who served, you might have to help me, 15 years on that group,
Yes.
at least, right?
Yes.
Most of it as the chair. He did a wonderful job, very even-keeled, very hardworking. He was also on our 2020 task force, but he put a lot of time in, never asked for any attaboys. He just showed up and organized it and listened, and I think really served us well, and probably was great to work with because he's such a nice guy. But anyway, I wanted to give him a shout out. So we've got a lot of great people who serve on our commissions, and he's one of them.
We sure do, and there were a lot that have stepped down, and they all did a great job. Seeing no other trustee comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien and Trustee Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
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 And tonight's meeting adjourned at 8:43. Thank you, everybody. Again, we will be back on August 24th. I'm sure we'll see everybody in the village in the meantime, but we will be off the next two meetings. Thank you.